Hello, everyone, and welcome to an incredible game from round 2 of this year's London Chess Classic. Yes, we are already in round 6, and I think it could already be starting right about now, but I felt like this is the game you had to see, and some of you have even recommended it. It features something I don't think I've ever seen in a chess game, especially in a classical chess game, where one player follows not known theory, but preparation for almost 40 moves. In this game, 36 moves were completely prepared before the game even started. And the game does follow a game, I'm pretty sure you guys know this, that Grishuk played against Lazovic in the Russian Team Championship this year, but it goes way, way beyond that. It's, like I said, from round 2, Nodirbek Abdusattorov versus youngest Grandmaster ever, Abhimanyu Mishra. Let's check it out. And yeah, someone wise obviously said that by failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. It's attributed to many people, so I decided to discredit the unknown author. In chess, you can never have too much preparation. Sometimes it happens like we've had in that game. Shahriar Mamedyarov, for example, he blitzed out 23 moves of known theory, and then the first move that he didn't have prepared, he blundered the entire game because he imagined that he was still within the protective waters of theory. Other than that, it is nice to be prepared in chess. So let's check it out. Nodirbek with white opens with pawn to e4. We have e5, and we're just gonna blitz this out because you've seen this hundreds of times. We have bishop to b5, Ruy Lopez. We have pawn to a6, Morphy's defense, bishop to a4, knight to f6, and the castle's king side. We have pawn to b5, bishop to b3, and bishop to c5, followed by pawn to a4, c3, most popular, a4 second most popular, so still all theory. Rook to b8, we have pawn to c3, pawn to d6, pawn to d4, bishop to b6, and now this tricky a5 move. I've shown this line, I think, last time, maybe 2 months ago, so if this is the first time you're seeing it, no, you cannot capture the pawn. Capturing with the bishop is just, losing terribly on the spot because you just capture on d5 and then you trade queens. Of course, the knight cannot capture. The knight is defending the bishop. And after you go king captures, then comes this nasty bishop d5 move, and you cannot defend both the knight and the bishop. Even if you capture still, the knight is attacked. You're going to lose a piece. And capturing with the knight, while not that terrible, also just loses to rook captures on a5. And after bishop captures, d captures on e5. And regardless of what you do, if the knight moves, queen d5 is just disgustingly strong. If captures, then again, you just trade queens, captures, knight captures. And you cannot defend against both this fork and the knight c6 fork that just forks everything. So again, you will lose this game. So it is common to just go bishop to a7. And as you can see by the situation on the clocks, both Nodirbek and Abhimanyu are playing this instantly. Abhimanyu even more so, which will be funny later on. You'll see why. So pawn to h3, we have bishop to b7 and rook to e1. Bishop to e3 also played here. Rook to e1, maybe a bit of a surprise from Nodirbek, but after castles and bishop to e3, we go into similar lines. We have e captures, c captures, knight to b4, now preparing to capture on e4, and d5 is very popular here. We have bishop to g5, pinning the knight, and now pawn to h6. This is incredible stuff. Abhimanyu already down some 10 minutes on the clock. Bishop to h4, we have pawn to c5, preparing pawn to c4. Maybe in some lines you capture on d4, but I really haven't found any in the database. Knight to c3, and now c4 can be played. And it's certainly a move you can do. And after, let's say, bishop c2, you trade, you go pawn to b4, you attack the knight, knight d5, you trade, bishop captures, pawn captures, and now you would like to capture that pawn, but the knight is pinned, so you have to play g5, and then white sacrifices on g5, and you get something like this, this has been played. It's nothing new. So rook to e8. This is a very rare move. Abhimanyu plays it sort of as an improvement on the immediate pawn to c4 move, but it has been played before. Denis Lazovic played it against Alexander Grishuk in this year's Russian Team Championship. So this is what happens next. They follow that exact game, move by move. Rook e3, okay, c4, everything exactly as in that game. We have knight captures, queen captures, pawn to b4, knight to d5, Pawn to g5 first, we have knight captures on g5, h captures, and bishop captures. And now bishop captures on d5, so a bit of a different move order, but we get the exact same position. Now rook captures on e3, f captures, and now how do you deal with the pin? The threat is rook f1. You're not going to be able to defend that knight however you try. So unpinning immediately, saying, okay, you either capture now or you don't capture at all, and I'm going to grab the e3 pawn. Okay, bishop captures on f6, queen captures on e3 check, and queen to f2. Exactly the same as in the Grishuk versus Lazovic game. Queen captures, king captures, and rook b5, putting pressure on d5. This is how you get the rook into the game, and you will have to figure out how to get that bishop into the game. You are, of course, hoping for captures and captures. And in that game, Grishuk played rook captures. Sorry, in that game, after rook to b5, in that game, rook captures on d5. Oh, sorry, rook to c1 was played by Grishuk. I forgot. And then Lazovic played rook captures on d5, and after rook captures on c4, rook to f5 check, seemingly blundering a piece here, but not really. King e3, and after rook captures on f6, rook c7. The bishop is trapped because after bishop b8, rook c8 will take the bishop with check, and after bishop captures on d4, king captures, you had this position, and okay, whatever you play now, rook to f5, you go after the pawn. It's an equal rook endgame, so not much to be said about this. But to Abhimanyu's misfortune, this was still within Nodirbek's preparation, and he just goes king e3, the top move recommended by the engine, and now you have problems, because look at this, rook captures on d5, pawn to g4, and that rook is not entering the game anytime soon, at least not the way you would like to. And the other question is, how are you activating the bishop? So for the moment, Abhimanyu has an inactive rook and an inactive bishop. We have rook to b5. Okay, you have to activate the rook somehow. King to e4. Again, just blitzing out moves. Nodirbek, an hour and 27 minutes on the clock. Abhimanyu below 20 minutes. And Abhimanyu goes king to h7. One thing about d5 check, yes, you somehow do manage to get that bishop into the game, but after king f5, let's say bishop to b8, rook to e1, it's just dead loss for black. You're either winning material or you're checkmating the black king. There's not much you can do here. If king to f8, then you just start advancing the past h pawn. So not much you can do here. So king to h7, we have pawn to h4, king to g6, and now rook to f1. And the problem is, again, for Abhimanyu, he is without a move. There is a move that keeps him in the game, and it's incredibly difficult to spot. I will just show you why rook captures on a5 loses on the spot. Because you just go h5 check, and after king to h6, you go bishop to d8. That rook gives you a beautiful tempo. And, okay, what do you play? You could maybe go rook b5, because going... after that, b2 pawn seems way too slow. Rook to f6 check, king to g7, rook captures on d6, and now, okay, you do get a passed pawn, but just bishop to f6 check. And after king to h6, or you go up the board, and then you get checkmated, king to h6, and now rook to d8, threatening mate in 1, rook to b8, and now you happily trade. Captures, and you just capture on c3. You can play whatever. d5 is fine. If c2, then bishop to b2. Bishop to c1 will kick away the black king. You advance the pawns. You get your king into the game. And however you play this, as I like to say, even your uncle can win this. But Abhimanyu plays the strongest move. Pawn to d5 check. He spent some 2 minutes calculating it because he just doesn't have any more time. We have king back to e3. Again, blitzing out the top move. Okay, here you realize tactically that you cannot use the f-file, otherwise you lose that bishop, and king e5 runs into mate in 1. So that would be terrible. So king e3, while it is the only move that gives Nodirbek advantage, it's the first one you see without even calculating anything. Bishop to b8, pawn to h5 check, king to h7, and this is it. Ladies and gentlemen, move 36, Nodirbek's first thing of the game. He plays pawn to g5. The top engine move, spending some 7 minutes contemplating it, but there's nothing more for Abhimanyu to do here. We have bishop to d6, maybe pawn to b3, then pawn to c3 can complicate things, but it's still lost for black. Bishop to d6, and now again, a brilliancy from Nodirbek, bishop to e7. Just... and again, this is the second move where he actually spent some time, some 2 minutes on this move. So probably he's now on his own, but maybe he had some of it on the board. Or maybe this game is not preparation at all. Maybe Nodirbek is just an engine. But yeah, bishop captures on e7. Not a lot to say about this. Rook captures with check, king to g8. Rook captures on e7. Pawn to c3. And now the last thing of the game for Nodirbek, he plays pawn to b3. Some 6 minutes on this move, and that is it. Move 40 has been reached. Time control has been reached, but not enough for Abhimanyu to do anything. Again, if you go for the a5 pawn, rook c7, the pawn is not promoting, and you're just going to put pawns on the 6th rank and checkmate that black king, or advance the pawn to victory. So again, not a lot to be said about this. Maybe c2, pawn to g6, and that's it. No move for black. So after b3, rook to b8, preventing any checks by the rook, but now just rook to c7. Abhimanyu gains more time on the clock. Rook to f8, he now has 25 minutes, but those 25 minutes will be used to figure out how he wants to congratulate Nodirbek, whether he wants to resign on the spot or maybe, play a few more moves. So pawn to h6, we have rook to f7, offering a rook trade, and trading rooks would actually be great because now this is a problem and this is a draw. But Nodirbek just goes rook to c6. Of course, he's not going to trade rooks. We have rook to e7 check, king to f4, king to h7, and king to g4. We have rook to d7, king to h5. Now the king will support the pawns as well. King to g8, pawn to g6, and rook to d8. Stopping mate. We have rook to c7, taking away any hope of that black king ever entering the game again. King to h8, and now there are many ways you can win this, but it's nice to know that if you have this position with the king on h8, that h7 simply wins on the spot. This is what Nodirbek played, and he was in this position on move 49. That Abhimanyu Mishra, youngest grandmaster ever, resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. So Nodirbek started with 1 hour and 30 minutes on the clock, finishes with 1 hour and 43 minutes on the clock. That is absolutely unreal. So you win this by any means you want, but obviously you're going to play king h6 and checkmate the king. And of course, if king h6, rook to d6 to stop g6, then of course a rook to c8 check. Rook goes back, and then you capture with checkmate. So however you want to play this, it is completely winning. With yesterday's victory over Nicolas Theodorou, also check out that game. Nicolas brutally sacrificed his queen, and Nodirbek was able to fend it off. Even after that, the position was equal, but incredibly complicated. So if you haven't seen it, it's my previous video, do check it out. But yeah, Nodirbek on a 4-game winning streak. He faces Sam Shanklin next, 2019, I believe, US chess champion. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. Is Nodirbek ready to re-enter the top 10? Because it certainly seems so. So really hope you guys enjoyed it. I would like to thank Michael Baisalia, Andrea Sorcinelli, Eddie Sfer, Brian Pratt, and David Gasparian for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day. And as they say, by failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. And if you don't want to prepare to fail, first link in the description below, download Lotus Chess and prepare to win every game. I think there's even a big discount for the next 2 days. So if you really like it, only if you really like it, you are allowed to consider that. Otherwise, certainly not. Hope you enjoyed. See you soon.